Hello again, everyone. This is Santotaku with Team by the Trigger, bringing you another deck testing session between myself and Senshi. After the release of Set 3, the team has had 3 new decks to play around with, and today I'll be showcasing Senshi using one of them, the Pale Moon deck, versus me using my old Narukami deck. Let's get the match started. So I'm the badass on the left with the Toshiki Kai sleeves, and we have Senshi on the right with the purple sleeves. I start off with the Red River Dragoon, which is a pretty standard opening play, and he's going to ride into the Midnight Bunny. The starting Vanguard for Pale Moon and Dark Irregulars both have the same effect, where when they're ridden they Soul Charge 1, which is pretty good for the strategy because, especially for Pale Moon, you're trying to get a toolbox for your Midnight Bunnies and Alices and Mirror Demons to use. But in this situation, since it doesn't move to the back row, his 7k isn't able to get over my Vanguard. So that was unfortunate for him, and the damage stays tied up at 0 as I go into my turn 2 ride. I go into my Thunderstorm Dragoon and call a Garuda, and this will be a this will go through pretty easily. He takes the first damage, and I attack again, which will be a 10k shield, and he takes that damage as well. So he stands and he draws. He's down 2-0 at this point, but that's not a terrible situation to be in, I suppose. He rides into Crimson Beast Tamer, which is a pretty awesome play. It's going to unlock a lot of the potential of the deck, getting the Turquoise Beast Tamers up to 9k boosters, and the Barking Manicore to be a 13k Vanguard is pretty awesome. And then, of course, his other Crimson Beast Tamers will now be 11k once this one's actually in the soul. So it'll give him some good potential to hit some magic numbers. But as of right now, he's just going to attack for 15, which will force a 10k shield out of me, and I will gladly just let that through, losing a Breakthrough Dragon. And then his 10k Rearguard will attack my Vanguard. It'll just be a 5k shield for me, but I'll let that through to tie the game up. So I stand and I will draw, and I will ride into my Vermilion, which is exactly the Vanguard I want in play. I'll call a backup Garuda and a Red River Dragoon. So he's looking at my Vanguard column, which would be just a 5k block if he's not afraid of the Twin Drive, and then 2 10k blocks. So this is going to test his hand here at a very early stage. I do get the draw trigger, and I put it on my backup Garuda. He gets the heal trigger, which will negate my trigger basically and keep him at 2 damage. And this will still be a 10k shield to him if he wants to take it or let it through. At this point in the game, dropping a 10k shield may not be the greatest idea. But he'll look over his hand a bit and consider his options, and finally decide to just take the damage, which is probably the best play here. And this would be a 5k shield on his Vanguard, but the best play in this situation, I think, will be to attack the Rearguard like I do. I'd rather him lose the 10k attacker in play than a random 5k draw trigger grade 1 that he doesn't need from his hand. So just I guess a pretty defensive play, but I'll take it. He rides into his Robert, which I think is I think it's the best Vanguard that Pale Moon has right now. It has the same primary effect as CEO Amaterasu, but none of the respect. You get to Soul Charge 1, look at the top of the deck, and keep it at top or bottom. Unfortunately, unlike Amaterasu, he does not get the plus 4k if he has 4 cards in hand, which would be nice if it did, but whatever. So with a Crimson Beast Tamer in the soul, his backup Crimson Beast Tamer and Turquoise Beast Tamer are a 20k column, which would be so much better if I had a 10k Vanguard, but I do not. His Vanguard attacks, and I tie up the damage at 3. He attacks for 20k on my Vanguard, which will just be a 10k shield to me. And I guess I really could take the damage here, but I really don't need to limit break, so dropping the draw trigger and intercepting will be just as good. So I'll draw, and I will use my Spark Kid here, looking for a new attacking column, and I check the top 5. And I get it. There's my Vermilion. So that's probably my favorite thing about that series of starting Vanguard. Being able to trade a counterblast for a new attacker is pretty key. And I mean, unfortunately, it's only a 4K, but you can counteract that with some other cards. So I dropped my Photon Bomber, the personal booster for Vanguards for Narukami. Since he's at 3 damage, my attack is a 21K on his Vanguard. And there's my trigger check. I don't get anything. He will get his second heal trigger of the game, keeping the damage tied at 3. And really considers where to put the power, but he decides on his Vanguard, which I think is the right choice. So there's my 17 on his Vanguard. And that will just be a 5K shield for him. But it probably... yeah, there it is. He just blocks it. And there's my attack with Garuda, which he sort of needs to block, because if he's going to block Vermilion, he might as well block Garuda because he doesn't want me to flip a damage face up. Probably what I would have done is taken the Vermilion attack and then just blocked the Garuda attack, especially so he wouldn't have had to lose that Cerberus because he needs more attacking columns right now. So he's going to Soul Charge and he's going to peek at the top card of the deck. And he'll stack it at the bottom. And I mean, that'll put him, he's had to put cards at the bottom of the deck twice now, but it puts him 2 cards closer to his next trigger. Then he uses Skull Juggler. That looked like a trigger that he Soul Charged there, which is unfortunate, but he now has 3 columns which force 10k shields. So this will be a good test. So he's getting ready to Twin Drive with a 17. I will let it through, not too concerned. He gets a crit trigger and puts the power on his rear guard, and a draw trigger and he puts the power on his other rear guard. Splitting the triggers is always a good idea. I get a draw trigger which will basically cancel out both of his triggers. And then it looks like Orion over there. So that worked out pretty nice for me, because I'm gonna need 5 fewer shields on each attack. So Robert attacks, I drop my Carbuncle from hand to guard. And then his 25k Beast Tamers will attack, and I drop a heal trigger from my hand to guard that. So I get away from that turn with just the 2 damage. But he's still at 3, so he's probably feeling pretty confident right now. And this would be the best time to use my my limit break. His columns are full. He's hit the magic numbers he wants. And now I'm going to attack him, and he's got to decide between keeping a large hand or keeping a good field and replacing it next turn with the cards he has in hand, or losing the cards in hand and keeping his field. It's a really tough decision. It's probably my favorite aspect of Narukami, just being able to control with 3 counterblasts like that. I would like if they had a little bit more like this, because it's I think in most cases it's really not a tough decision. You can really prepare for Vermilion if you're aware that it's coming, and you just keep a couple grade 2s in your hand, so right after the effect you can just replenish your field. And Senshi's having a really hard time deciding. I think he's probably going to be taking the attack on his Vanguard at the very least, but with he only has 3 damage on him, so I would need a double crit trigger to win. But his columns are pretty good, so he may want to save 1 or both of his rear guards, depending on what he has in his hand. And based on how long he's taking to decide, I don't think his hand is very good. And on top of having to guard out these attacks, he's going to need to protect against the Garuda attack too, because if I get Garuda off, it'll flip a damage up, which will open up room for a Death Scythe or a Thunder Break, or a heal trigger, which will go on the Garuda there. And now if Garuda goes through, I'll be able to use Vermilion a second time next time I get my damage up there. So we'll see what happens here. He gets the draw trigger, which cancels out the heal trigger I got. But this will still be a 5k shield to him. And he loses a draw trigger, and this will be another 5k shield to him. And oh, that's actually a 10k shield he needed there, and he drops the crit trigger from earlier. So he guards out the turn, and let's see if he can recover from Vermilion's assault. Fortunately for him, his boosters are pretty solid. He has two 7Ks and a 9K, so as long as he has any grade 2s or 3s, he'll be able to create the magic numbers that he just lost. His soul is looking pretty big too. What may have helped him is if he had taken the damage from the rearguard Vermilion and then blocked the Garuda, he would have the extra card in hand, and he'd be able to Mega Blast, which will actually get rid of all my boosters, which would be pretty key for him because he's having to block with 15k minimum every turn from my my Vanguard. Although I guess all the heal triggers he's been getting have been evening out. He realized he forgot to soul charge, so he's going to check his deck again, and he bottom decks it once again, putting himself a card closer to his next trigger. So there's a 17 on my Vanguard. I will need a 10 minimum to block, but at 4 damage I'm not taking any risks. I'm going to drop my Perfect Guard, losing my third Vermilion, it looks like. And he gets his third heal trigger of the game, putting him back to 3 damage. And there's his Skull Juggler, now able to get over me with the effect of the heal trigger. I just need a 5k to get over it. And I mean, I could just intercept Garuda at the very least, but taking the damage, if I had taken a damage and gotten a trigger, I would have been able to completely block out the last attack. So I was just hoping to conserve a card there, which did not work. And I'm going to need a 5k shield anyways here. Oh, and it looks like he's deciding to get rid of the Garuda, which I guess is a good play because that would have required a 10k shield out of me. But I don't really care because the last damage would have killed me, and you know, I guess that works. But I looks like I have my 4th Vermilion there, so now my magic numbers stay the same. It's mid-range all 3, so he's going to need 10k shields for all 3 attacks. Oh, except for my Vanguard actually, because it's going to be a 21. So 15 and 2 10s and the Twin Drive. So he's in a dangerous situation here because his field is not good. He dropped down 2 10k shields, so I think that's actually 3 crit triggers gone for him, which means he's gonna have a hard time threatening me because I think there's only 1 more left in the deck. And there's the attack for my 17k rearguard, and he loses a Midnight Bunny. And there's no rearguard worth attacking here for me, so I just go after his Vanguard again, even though it may unlock his Mega Blast, because there's really no reason to kill the Skull Juggler or the draw trigger. And he blocks it somewhat inexplicably. He really needs to conserve his hand. In order to do that, he needs to get rid of my boosters. So that was I think that was a misplay on his part. I'm not sure if he would change that, if he could go back, but he's still ahead in the damage game. With all those heal triggers, I guess he wants to conserve the advantage that he's already made for himself. Basically he'd have taken 7 damage by now, something like that. So his fields are a 10k block from the Vanguard with Twin Drive, and then 2 5k blocks, which I probably will have no problem taking care of, judging by the size of my hand over there. So I drop a 15 on his Vanguard attack, forcing him to double crit, or double trigger. He gets the first trigger, and he decides to place it on his Vanguard, so he's going for broke here. And he gets a Hades Hypnotist. I can't really fault him there. His field looks, you know, pretty awful. So if he had gotten the double trigger, he would have won the game right there, and that would have been the end of that. But instead, fate has different decisions for him. So he attacks my rear guard, and I just drop a 5k shield to block it. And because he really hates my Vermilion rear guard, he will attack it again, and I drop another 5k shield. So I stand and I draw, and I attack again for 21 because I don't need to correct my columns. And I twin drive a breakthrough, and I think that was a Thunderstorm Dragoon, and he got a perfect guard anyways. So now I attack for 17, and he finally takes the attack. I attack for 19, and he blocks it. So actually I think all 4 of his crit triggers are now gone. I believe all of his heal triggers are now gone as well, because he's used 3 of them, and I think he guarded with another one. He's peeking at the top card of his deck, puts it at the bottom. And finally, we get to see the Mega Blast. And the great thing about the new set, with set 3, there's so many ways to get cards to the soul. I think before now, it was almost unheard of to pull off a Mega Blast, because getting 8 cards in the soul just required so much time in a game that's so fast-paced. And there weren't a lot of soul charging strategies or soul charging cards. But Pale Moon and Dark Irregulars and even Oracle Think Tank, just they can fill their soul so easily. And here he just soul blasted 8. It looks like he has about 3 or 4 more still in there. So that's not even a problem. He could have done it turns ago. So he replaces his draw trigger, and he gets out a Barking Cerberus. So he's going to force 2 10k blocks out of me. And there's the attack on my Vanguard. And I drop, it looks like a 15k shield to guard. There's his first check, and second check, no triggers for him. And now he's going to attack again, which will be a 19, which will be another 10k shield no matter where he chooses, because I have 3 Vermilions in play. But he decides to attack my rear guard, which I will gladly let die, because I don't need it right now. He attacks my last one, trying to hold off my offensive after removing my rear guards, but that's no dice here. I go ahead and just drop my 10k from hand, or my 5k shield from hand. So there's a Breakthrough Dragon, there's a Ryan to stop his Interceptor, and there's 2 Red River Dragoons. I've replenished because I've been waiting for his Mega Blast all game. I'm really surprised he didn't attack my Vanguard, because he could have gotten rid of all those extra boosters on his last turn that he probably should have been afraid of. He goes ahead and he perfect guards. I get a perfect guard and a crit trigger. I'll boost Breakthrough Dragon, which is now a 25k monster, and with his hand as small as it is and his Interceptor unable to do its thing, this should probably be the game, unless there's a heal trigger I miscounted somewhere in the deck. And here it is, the last damage, and that's game. Thank you all for watching. As usual, please like, favorite, and subscribe as you see fit, and check out our blog. The link is available in the description below.